Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Drive Pink. It's a monologue today. Scotty here. Saur will not be joining us. This will be our game recap. He's going to feature a little bit as we get into awards. I know he pre-recorded a couple things for us, so we'll see what he's got when it comes to awards. But with the timing of his schedule, I guess he's got a very busy week. We wanted to record another episode later in this week, and then just the timing of everything made it very difficult for the two of us to get on this together. So I am going to be running this game back solo, and I wanted to make sure you guys got something. I did get a chance to rewatch this game. So I want to start by thanking Mistiano for hooking me up with the opportunity to rewatch this game. It is not something that I was able to do, or I or Saur were able to do for the first two games of Inter Miami's run in this cup. I was able to do it for this game, and so I really appreciate Mistiano for that. Thank you. Second, I wanted to talk about the emotions of this game because even rewatching the game, I could feel it. All three games of this tournament really, and thankfully Inter Miami's been in competitive, closely contested, nervy games. There have been some games in this tournament where the game has been over, I think, early on, or it's just a mismatch in a way that one team just can't compete. Inter Miami not been a part of that. That's not really how this group played itself out. Inter Miami in three very competitive games with a chance to win all three and take 9 points. They end up with 5 and get into the next round, which I think is still an incredible success. But as the game was unfolding, I was incredibly nervous and anxious. But that sometimes I think happens when you're just a fan watching the game for the first time. You watch the ball, you get as high as you can get, you get as low as you can get. We try and reflect that with the raw reactions we do after the game, but rarely do I feel that way on a rewatch. And that's exactly what I felt today. It wasn't quite the same nervousness, the palms weren't sweaty, stuff like that, but the excitement was very real, and the pride was very real. And there was a moment in that second half, the 65th minute, and I'll get into it in more depth in a few minutes, but Luis Suárez scores that goal. And the stadium starts playing Vivir Mi Vida, the Mark Anthony song that they play at Drive Pink Stadium or Chase Stadium when Inter Miami scores. And it was just like, for me at least, a moment that Inter Miami created for its fans, where they get this celebration that we know all so well, but not at Chase Stadium, but in Hard Rock Stadium in front of the eyes of the world at the World Cup. And for them to create that for the fans, for themselves, for Inter Miami as a club, I thought was unbelievable. And even watching it the second time, I was sort of moved by it. It was sort of emotional to sort of be in that moment. You go up 2-0 against Palmeiras, and it's all pure Inter Miami. It's even to the song they play in the stadium. So just really an emotional moment. And then later on, we get to that 77th minute, and Federico Redondo and the subs come on, and I know what's going to happen soon, and Inter Miami is going to go from 2-0 to 2-2, and I still felt this anxiety and not frustration, like nervousness that this was going to fall apart. I didn't even really want to watch the last 10 minutes of the game because it was so fun and exciting up until that point. And so even on the rewatch, even knowing exactly what's going to happen, I still felt the emotions. And I wanted to credit this tournament, the magnitude of these games, the competitiveness of these games is what being a sports fan really is all about. And so the fact that Inter Miami is not just at this tournament, but finding success, continuing their tournament beyond the minimum 3 games, and the fact that it's in an environment like this, I think is just awesome. And so I wanted to take a minute to appreciate that because, again, you go back and you rewatch the moments, not just of the goal from Suarez, but the minute after where they're playing the Inter Miami goal scoring song. It's at Hard Rock and it's at the world stage. It's just, for me at least, it was moving. Um, okay. Uh, I want to get to the chat as we go through this, but let's move into this game first, and maybe there'll be some more comments as we go along. Um, this was, I think, a game we were nervous about going in. I thought this was the most likely game Inter Miami was going to get beat up in, because this Palmeiras midfield is very athletic. Defensively, they're very sound and they're big and they're solid. But basically, from the first minute, there was no fear from Inter Miami. They came out to play, and I thought they were really good. Gustavo Gomez for Palmeiras had an opportunity on goal from a corner in the 4th minute. I want to come back to that a little bit later, but so it was sort of a warning shot to Palmeiras from Palmeiras. But Inter Miami, I thought, came back. There was an 8th-minute moment where Messi runs through their midfield, and it leads to a Segovia shot, and it gets blocked. But I think that was the moment we realized, okay, they are not going to overwhelm our midfield for 90 minutes. Messi will be able to play through this. We will get chances in this game. And basically, I thought, like, that moment, there was another one in the 10th minute where No Allen gets open down the left. And then he tries to pass it back to Messi. Like, it was clear we were going to be a full force in this game. We were going to be not just sitting back trying to survive, but we were going to be able to play and really have our impact in this game. And so within the first 10 minutes, I thought, okay, Inter Miami's ready for this. There wasn't going to be that Alali nervousness where we're turning the ball over and guys aren't playing doing what they need to do and stuff like that. So within the first 10 minutes, I thought there was a couple moments that showed us as fans that Inter Miami is absolutely ready for this. I did think the game changed in that 11th minute when Palmeiras applies their pressure for the first time. It was clear their trigger was when Inter Miami goes from a goal kick trying to play out the back. That's when we're going to trigger the press. That started, I noticed it for the first time in the 11th minute, and they carried it through much of the first half. And it was their most effective point in the game when they could create some turnovers in that Inter Miami's final third. 3, maybe 4 opportunities. The closest one comes in the 32nd minute. Inter Miami does turn it over, and Palmeiras has numbers forward into the box. The ball finds its way to Orlando City, former Orlando City player Facundo Torres, who puts it through Redondo's legs, but it goes 3 inches wide. We had talked so much about how you have to be able to finish your chances in this game, and I thought that's what Inter Miami that's what gave Inter Miami a chance in this game, because I didn't think Palmeiras was particularly good at that. And I thought that's exactly how this first half played out. And for Inter Miami, if they wanted to win, they were going to have to make the most of their chances. And the first big one comes in that 16th minute in their own half. Redondo clears the ball forward and it lands at the chest of Luis Suarez, who just with his chest taps it over to Redondo, who's in his own half, onside, all that stuff, and has basically a free reign right at the goalkeeper. None of those defenders were going to catch him. One of them pulls his hamstring trying, and he gets the one-on-one with the keeper. We have seen today Allende be put in this situation before and not convert. And so this was a must-have for Inter Miami, just like 16 minutes later, Facundo Torres would have a chance and he couldn't put it on target. Today Allende does. He beats the keeper, and it's a very good keeper in Weverton. Inter Miami goes up 1-0, and all of a sudden, I think the eyes are opened for both teams. That not only was this going to not be easy for Palmeiras, but Inter Miami is absolutely ready to go take this game over if they play well. And so the opening shot really, I thought, defined much of the rest of this game. The only other moment I wanted to touch on or talk about in the rundown is this 45th minute. Richard Rios tries to draw a really weak foul on Noah Allen in the box. Ultra soft. The referee didn't want any of it. VAR didn't want any of it. But I thought it was a sign from Palmeiras, a Palmeiras player, that in that first half, they really didn't know exactly how they were going to break this Inter Miami team down. It felt a little bit like not desperation, but trying to reach for something to give his team a spark. Um, Second half, they make some substitutions. I should have mentioned in the 16th minute, Inter Miami scores the goal, but on that play, one of their defenders pulls his hamstring or his, a lower body muscle injury, and so he has to be replaced. And that becomes important because Palmeiras has to use their first substitution window to get a new defender on the field. They end up bringing on another player, and at halftime, so they get another body on the field. They come out and try and play right through it. 46th minute, Facundo Torres makes a good run and has a chance. Cello makes a really nice sliding block. And that's how most of this game felt, where Palmeiras would put a ball over the top. Palmeiras would sort of, you know, make a run to the left, create a little bit of space. But Inter Miami's defenders were just always up for it, whether it was Cello, whether it was Maxi Falcone, no Allen, Toto Abias. They were just always full focus where they needed to be and just put the ball away without too much fuss. And they just did what good defenders do. It was really fun to see from an Inter Miami team that hasn't always been that way. 52nd minute, Luis Suarez has he puts Allende through again, similar to that first play where he just pushes it forward and Allende uses his pace to create separation between him and the defender. He slows down as he enters the box, and the Palmeiras defender's able to sort of get a shoulder on him, which puts him off balance, and he's not able to get what he wants from that shot on, and it ends up going wide. 56th minute, I just wanted to mention this because it was cool. Maxi Falcone earns a goal kick on a slide tackle in the box and comes back, and he gets up, and he is just so pumped up. 58th minute, Messi heads it to himself, tries to put it on the keeper, tries to put it up and over the keeper. It was, I think, his best shot of the game. But then the big one comes in the 65th minute. Luis Suarez, and this, guys, I encourage you to go rewatch the replay on this because it is so beautiful. Luis Suarez gets the ball outside of his own final third. And if you are going to tell me this man is going to dribble the ball from around halfway and then get himself into the box through defenders, past defenders, and put the ball in the back of the net, I would have said that's crazy. He could have done that 10 years ago, but not now, except he absolutely did that. He gathers the ball in space, and midfielder Lucas Evangelista, who is probably responsible for that area, starts to close down on him. But because he's not there, the center back, Gustavo Gomez, also steps up. And so the two of them are sort of colliding in on Suarez, and he dribbles right in between both of them in a way that we haven't seen from him in a while. And he sets himself up with a one-on-one against Fuchs. And I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. And as he's sort of entering the box, he opens his hips to his right as if he's going to try curler into the far post. And Fuchs goes for, he gets the bait. He takes the bait. He goes in for the tackle to try and stop him from getting the shot off. Suarez just crosses him over like Allen Iverson. And then now he's got himself with only the keeper to beat. The composure with the left foot and the power with the left foot to put it on frame, and with the sort of electricity it needed to hit Weverton in the finger, who does get a finger on it, but to not let it be deflected and hit into the back of the net. It's really potentially Luis Suarez's best goal at Inter Miami. Off the top of my head, it's the best goal he's had. Right after that, there's some substitutions for both teams, including Jordi Alba coming on. We will talk about that more in a minute. But it was the minute, from 70 to 80 is when Inter Miami starts to have some problems with health concerns. Suarez comes off in the 73rd minute for Kramaski. Suarez asked for the substitute. So anyone wondering why he got pulled off, it's because he asked to be pulled off. And then 1 minute later, Redondo starts cramping. A couple minutes after that, we start seeing Noah Allen cramp. Trello Wiegand did not look great. So as we're heading into minute 80, it's just so clear that there's some guys that are not 100% ready to close this game out. Again, we'll get into the depth conversation in a little bit, but Palmeiras finally gets the breakthrough in the 80th minute after trying to clear the ball. Gustavo Gomez, who's high up the field, wins a header over Baltasar Rodriguez to put it back into a dangerous spot. It falls to Alan, who has an unbelievable pass to Paulinho. I honestly have no idea how he even saw Paulinho making that run. It is such a nice pass, and the vision to be turned the entire other way and then hit the ball sort of at your own 4 o'clock or whatever into and perfectly sort of the pace of the ball was perfect for Paulinho. He comes up on it. He's able to put it in the back of the net. Noah Allen, as I just mentioned, already showing signs of cramping. He would have come out of this game if Inter Miami had another substitution window. I truly believe that David Martinez would have been available, and I think they would have gone to him. You also could have put Jordi Alba back. The reason I'm mentioning that because Noah Allen is about an inch and a half away from toe poking that ball out of danger. And if he doesn't have the cramps, if this is 15 minutes earlier, I have no doubt he gets there, kicks it away, probably for a corner for Palmeiras, but not a goal. And so I think this is the first moment you're really seeing it come back to bite Inter Miami. 85th minute, though, a quick transition. Some of the subs combine to create a golden opportunity for Inter Miami. Kramaski pushes the ball to Messi, who pushes the ball to Jordi Alba, and then it's over the top cross to Fafa Picault, who is right at the edge of the 6-yard box. The ball touches him, and he's unable to get a realistic shot on goal. Fumbles the opportunity, I would say. And then it's Palmeiras from there out. Mauricio had a nice shot in the 85th minute, a big save from Ustari. Busquets does create a moment with Messi, and he tries to find Fafa open down the right, but it does get intercepted. And then the 87th minute, it's a cross into the box. Falcone heads it down, and it's sort of right between Cello and Busquets and directly towards Mauricio, who slams an absolute missile past Ustari. Again, I think if Cello and Busquets have, if this is the 65th minute, one of those two would have been able to at least get in the way of the shot and make a block with how they were playing for the first 75 minutes of this game. Sort of really poor, unlucky where that ball bounced. I was a little critical of Ustari in the post-game show, thinking maybe he could have saved that. He could have saved that, but it would have been an incredible save. I'm not going to blame him at all for that. It's an absolute missile. It's about 3 inches from him in terms of hitting him, but the pace and the distance on that ball is just it's electric. It's very hard for any goalkeeper to stop. Now, there are goalkeepers that make that save, and maybe that's the difference between winning the World Cup and not. And certainly Argentine fans know Emi Martinez has done that a number of times, but it's hard for me to blame him for that. It's an absolute missile. And then with the 2-2 draw, both teams going into the next round, I think both teams were relatively content to see out the last 7 or so minutes of this game to both advance into the next round. Okay, into the chat. Ross says, that's Messi magic. You never know what would happen next. Octavio says, it was a miracle to go to the next round with that bad defense. The defense has been so good in this tournament. So I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what you're implying there, if I'm being totally honest with you. AJ says he's surprised Jam didn't sub in Sailor and Martinez to shut down the last 15 minutes. We're going to have a conversation about the substitutions as we get into this. Muna says, if you park the bus and defend for your life, you'll have a chance against this tired PSG. We'll talk a little bit about PSG at the end. Miami King says Messi seems not happy. He doesn't want to face PSG, or is he too competitive, wanted to win any game? He wants to win every game. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He was frustrated after the Al Ahly game. He was frustrated after this game, and understandably so. Inter Miami had a chance to win all 9 points in this group. They are close. There was some really nice saves by Mohamed El Shanawi. Messi had that curler from far. Maxi Falcone had an opportunity right at the end that could have won Inter Miami that first game. And then this game, listen, 2-0 lead with 80 minutes gone by. It's absolutely Inter Miami's game to put away, and they couldn't. And again, we'll get into that as we go in. But I think they're just disappointed they didn't win this game. They had 9 points in this group, and considering the expectations, I think they showed they think they deserve to to win every game. Mr. Happy says, "Hello, everyone new here. You're more than welcome." Generally, I have some banter with my co-host, but he is unavailable at this moment. But you're welcome to come back every time. Paula says, Miami will have made new fans after this tournament. International success is important for growing the club. Our next episode, which probably will be Thursday night, is going to be talking about that a lot. But I agree. Miami King says, huge success. Natalia says, defense was not bad, but the players were tired. Not having Brighton Frey gave us less options. I 100% agree. AJ says you have to hand it to the defense. They played very well until they couldn't play well anymore from physical exhaustion. Miami King says Messi might feel bad for himself with the injury in the game. He does care. Yeah, I want to get into that as well. Mariela says I'm still on cloud 9. Nick Smith says didn't allow a goal in play till the 80th minute of the third game. That's almost unimaginable. Does make you think about how many goals this defense has let up this season, but that's for another time. Octavio says against PSG you have to play with a 4-5-1. We will get into that. I have some early thoughts on PSG, including a potential weakness, but we will get into that at the end of this episode. Okay, I wanted to talk about Palmeiras a little bit because I'm a big fan of theirs after this past week, and I think they have some really fun, exciting players. Obviously, the big names, Vitor Roque and Estevao, going to Chelsea, coming from Barcelona. Those guys are really young, and I think what we saw on film heading into this game is that they are not ready to be the difference makers. For Estevao, there's a moment in the 22nd minute, which I thought described his game really well, where he just absolutely dupes Telasco Segovia, sort of a pump fake to the right and then twists to his left and just creates so much space for himself. But it kind of leads to nothing, and it just becomes a turnover going the other way. And so if you are a scout and you're seeing that and you're thinking, oh man, the one-on-one ability of this player is off the charts. Now can we put him in a system where someone's going to make that run for him and we're going to create offense that way? Like you can project it into something amazing, but at this moment in time with this Palmeiras team, it just felt like it wasn't the finished product. And so listen, Maxi Falcone and Noah Allen did a good job of shutting him down, but it didn't really feel like, at least to me, heading into the game, that he was going to be the guy that won this game for Palmeiras. And I think it played out exactly like that. He had a couple nice moments, but it was never the moment that he created for himself because he's just not there yet in his development. A lot of potential and all of that, but from a win you games and tournaments type of situation, I don't think he's quite there yet. But that doesn't mean they didn't have quality. I thought another moment, 3 minutes later, 25th, Richard Rios has like a little plop over the back line to Rafael Vega, who's making a nice run. Vega sort of tries to hit it on the volley, and you can see how if things go right for them, that could have turned into offense. He ended up being offsides, but it was just they had like very basic ideas to try and create offense. And the majority of it felt like we're going to overwhelm you with numbers in the box and win balls in the box. And that's how we're going to score. And if it wasn't going to be that, it was going to be from corners and set pieces. Palmeiras had a significant number of corners. Their weapon on corner kicks is Gustavo Gomez. And that 4th minute, he absolutely gets open and puts a nice header on the ball. It's sort of right at Ustari's feet, and he's able to make the save. It's a good save from Ustari, but basically from that moment on, Toto Aviles, Maxi Falcone were just sort of bear hugging Gustavo Gomez every time there was a corner, and the referee was going to let them. So they basically took him out of the game as a set piece threat, which I thought was huge. And to their credit, there was a replay in the 35th minute, if you want to go back and watch, where they're showing the replay of it, and those two are just basically bear hugging him and tackling him to the ground, and they were going to get away with it for this whole game. So I think that's fair play. But yeah, they took away their big threat, and all of a sudden, Palmeiras, I didn't think they had a ton of ideas on how to break Inter Miami down from that point. And their game plan ended up being in the second half, we're just going to put so many numbers in and around the box and try and force turnovers, or more importantly, win second balls in the box and turn that into offense. And that is what ended up prevailing for them in this game. As far as them going forward, I really like this team from a physical standpoint, and they have quality. They're just going to have to finish their chances. I do think they will beat Botafogo in this next round, and then they're going to probably play Bayern Munich. I think unlike a lot of teams in this tournament, they will have the athleticism to play with a Bayern Munich and the depth and the quality of depth across the board, and the physical presence to compete with Bayern Munich. The problem is, are they going to be able to create themselves opportunities, and are they going to be able to finish their opportunities? I think that's going to be the biggest question. Are they capable of beating anyone? Yes, but they're going to have an above average day in terms of creating and finishing opportunities for themselves, is my honest evaluation of this team. And Inter Miami was able to, I thought, for much of this game, take advantage of those exact weaknesses. They played strong through the midfield, but when it came to really creating great opportunities for themselves, they just weren't able to make it happen. A couple other things I wanted to talk about. The referee was a UEFA ref, and I thought in the first 10, 15 minutes, he called a couple fouls that really established the way this game was going to be called throughout. And then he basically let the guys play for much of the rest of the game. So I thought he did a phenomenal job, and I did want to give him credit because he set the tone early and then let it ride for much of the game. I think the only yellow card that was given in this game, and I can double check, was Lionel Messi for sort of a professional foul at the end of the first half, which was fair. And because of that, nobody got suspended for either team moving into the next round. Messi, that was his first yellow card of the tournament. So I wanted to give him a shout out. Dealing with Palmeiras' press, because this is when it got nervy for Inter Miami. There was a couple moments in the first half, and it started in the 10th minute. And basically their trigger was when there's a goal kick from Ustari and Inter Miami is going to try and play out of the back, we're going to press them. We're going to create turnovers for ourselves. And they created a couple half chances, including the biggest one being a 32nd minute moment where Facundo Torres is in the box. He tries to hit the far post, and it goes a couple inches wide. And I was very proud of how Inter Miami adjusted on the fly to it. They realized that if they could get Busquets into that central part of the defense, that Palmeiras would fall back, that they would not be forcing the issue if it was Busquets on the ball. They were going to attack Maxi Falcone. They were going to attack Noah Allen. They were going to attack Ustari. They were going to attack Toto Aviles and Chelo Wiegand. But if you could get Busquets on the ball, that you would pull them off, and then they would get back into their defensive shape. And so Inter Miami figured this out. And by the end of the first half, I think they had pretty much neutralized that press from a sort of state of play perspective, because they realized exactly what the triggers were for Palmeiras and how they could sort of undo that if they got into trouble. So a couple moments where we had some turnovers that led to dangerous play and dangerous possession for Palmeiras, but I was just really proud of how Inter Miami figured it out on the fly. Didn't have to wait until the second half to make adjustments from the coaching staff. And whether it was Javier Mascherano noticing it on the field, whether it was something they had pre-prepared, or maybe it was just Busquets that said, I know exactly how to handle this, Inter Miami handled it really well. And I thought that was really impressive, considering we have not seen Inter Miami always handle a high press exceptionally well. So I thought that was the story of the first 70 minutes of this game. Inter Miami, or 65 minutes, up until Inter Miami gets that 2-goal lead. Excuse me for. I thought that was the story of the game. Palmeiras was not able to really create chances for themselves, and Inter Miami was able to not just create a couple chances, but finish chances. And I thought up until that point, this game was incredibly even from a shots, dangerous play, like everything I thought was very even. And so I know if you look at some of the stats at the end of the game, it looks like Palmeiras had a number of shots. They had 22 shots to Inter Miami's 8. Miami had to make 5 saves. Palmeiras only had to make 1. They had 7 corner kicks. Inter Miami had 0. But I thought a lot of the separation there comes in the last 25 minutes of this game after the substitutes come on. Okay, what else did I want to mention? Okay, so the substitutes come on, and I want to talk about Palmeiras first because they had 4 attacking subs in the second half. Their first sub comes in the first half because they have that defensive injury. But basically, they bring one on at halftime and then 3 more in the second half. All offense, all attackers trying to get more energy, trying to get more fresh legs against an Inter Miami back line that's been playing the entire game. Oh no, I'm starting to get a cough. That's could be bad for the rest of this episode. Okay. So these are the 4 guys they brought off their bench, attacking subs in the second half. Maurizio, who they bought from Internacional for $14 million. Paulinho, that was last summer. Paulinho, who they bought in January from Atletico Mineiro for $20 million. Vitor Roque, who they brought in from Barcelona in February for $29 million. And Alan, who is from their academy transfer market, values him at $4.5 million. And so when you compare that to what Inter Miami had on the bench, and we talked about it, I think they only had 3 subs that they really were comfortable using, and that was Kramaski, Fafa Pico, and Jordi Alba. I know Baltasar came on, but that was never in the game plan. It's just so clear that the difference in this game was made after the substitutions. And for Palmeiras' perspective, you're talking about bringing $70 million worth of talent and 4 players off the bench. Um, it's just, it's just, it's just a ridiculous amount of talent. And we're talking about the guys that made the difference for them. Alan gets the assist that that Paulinho scores, and then Maurizio, another sub. All 3 of those guys were subs in that second half, going up against tired legs from Inter Miami, and it's just the quality is incredible. And you know, Facundo Torres hasn't started every game this tournament. He was a $13 million player they bought from Orlando City. So the offensive options they had coming off the bench had such quality, athleticism, dynamism, that you can understand why there was a difference. And you look at the ratings of the substitutes for them and for us, and it's night and day that's where the game was won and lost. And by the way, if this was a defensive game, if they were up 1-0, they would have brought in equally talented, not quite as expensive because they're defenders, but they would have been able to substitute their defenders in ways that, again, it would have just been a level of quality that Inter Miami couldn't dream of matching from, or any MLS team could have dreamed of matching from a financial perspective or a talent perspective. And so this is really the first time I've ever felt like Inter Miami is being disadvantaged by the MLS roster rules. This club has done such a good job over the last year and a half of building a deep team, deeper, I've said many times, the deepest team in MLS history. Last year, I think it was the deepest. This year, a little less deep once they traded Robert Taylor and Julian Gressel. But for the most part, it's just when you're talking about $70 million and 4 players coming off the bench, there's just nothing you can do. All 4 of them are DP level players, and it is what it is. It's disappointing, but this is always what this game was going to be. As far as Inter Miami, this is, I think, where you can be the most critical of Inter Miami's decisions in this game, because I thought the starting 11 was phenomenal. They did exactly what they needed to do. And really, it was not just the substitutions, but the timing of the substitutions that is at least worth nitpicking, with the understanding that hindsight is 2020. In the moment, you can understand the decisions. But in hindsight, I think you can say that maybe there was a better way to go about this. Um, Jordi Alba was not going to come into this game as a left back. He was going to come in as a left midfielder because Javier Mascherano was not going to break up that back line and how consistent and effective they were and the chemistry and all of that unless he absolutely had to. So Jordi Alba wasn't going to come in at left back for Noah Allen. It was going to be in the midfield, and it was going to be either for Segovia or Tadeo Allende. I think Segovia is the closest to a like-for-like sub because Allende still gives you that pace over the top. So he comes in for Segovia in the 66th minute. At the time the decision was made to go to Jordi Alba, it was 1-0. You can see him getting ready on the sideline. And then that's when the Luis Suárez goal happens. And so he comes in when it's 2-0, but the decision was made when it was 1-0 to bring him on. Now, I understand Jordi Alba is a spectacular player, is a legend. He's built for moments like this, right? This is the World Cup. It felt like this was forced in a way that you didn't have to. Because as soon as this happens, you start having issues from a health and depth perspective. And considering the Miami Heat, considering how many teams have had trouble in Hard Rock Stadium over the last week and a half with the sort of intensity levels and not being able to make it 90 minutes and the drop off in physicality levels as you get to the end of the game, I think Javier Mascherano needed to be a little bit more conservative about when and how quickly he was going to make his subs. And if he was going to make the subs, only doing one player at a time and costing yourself a window. Because I know Inter Miami is as used to the South Florida Heat as any team, but this is the World Cup. And so the intensity level of the games are just stepped up a little bit. I think Javier Mascherano needed to be a little bit more conservative with his decisions. And so that's the nitpick. That's the only thing I thought they really did wrong. Jordi Alba comes on. I'll also say I thought Telasco Segovia was having a phenomenal game. I'm sure we'll get to him with awards in a minute, but everything else was dictated to Javier Mascherano. Luis Suárez asks to come off in the 73rd minute. So Javier Mascherano says, okay, we're going to move Messi to the top. We're going to put Allende in that midfield or sort of as that second striker type, and then we'll put Benjamin Kremasky out to the right. And then that uses their second substitution window, and now you've used 2 windows. You've only brought on 2 fresh, sets of fresh legs. Now, I understand you probably only have 3 guys you feel comfortable about, but if you had brought on Fafa for Tadeo Allende in that moment, for example, or if you had brought on, if you had waited with the Jordi Alba sub until Suárez wants to come off in the 73rd minute, you can bring on both Jordi and Benha at the same time. You keep the extra windows moving forward. Because it's 1 minute after that window that Federico Redondo cramps for the first time. I know he tries to gut it out, but he can't. And so you have to use your last substitution window in the 77th minute when Federico Redondo and Tadeo Allende come off. Baltasar Rodriguez and Fafa Picault go on. And it was about a minute later, Noah Allen starts to cramp. And then Noah Allen's not quite quick enough to deflect that first goal. And all of a sudden, it's all falling apart. Chelo Wigan also looked like he was really struggling at the end. Maxi Falcone, Toto Aviles, Lionel Messi obviously wasn't feeling great. So I just think if you were able to save that last substitution window a little bit longer, it would have really helped Inter Miami. The bench options are not phenomenal defensively. I don't know. I mean, we've only seen Ryan Taylor, I think, 1 game all year. So I don't know if he was really someone Javier Mascherano would have trusted in this game. But David Martinez probably would have been if you feel like Noah Allen has to come off. Maybe you put David Martinez out there, or maybe you move Jordi Alba back and you go to a back 5. Like, there are some things you could have done here that may have made this game turn out differently. But I will say again, and I've been very critical of Javier Mascherano this year, everything I just said is absolutely nitpicky. I thought all 11 starters played phenomenal, and I thought all 4 bench players did not play particularly well. But really, it was the timing of the substitutions that I think was Inter Miami's downfall. Okay. So that's, I mean, that's my thoughts on the substitutions, and I want to hear from you guys. But that's where I thought this game was won and lost. And Palmeiras had, again, $70 million worth of talent in attack in 4 players to bring off their bench. And Inter Miami, Fafa Bico is on 300K and he's a free agent, and Kramaski's a young guy who's promising, but you just didn't have the same oomph on the bench as Palmeiras. AJ says, I didn't see the usual water breaks. Yeah, I didn't even think about this. That's an excellent point. So many games in this tournament have had that water break at the 30th minute and at the 75th minute or so. And that didn't happen in this game. They did mention it on the broadcast that it was because it was a night game, but that maybe really could have helped Inter Miami if we're being honest. I hadn't even thought about that, AJ. So this is a great point. Paolo says subs are where we see the limitation of MLS roster rules. Yeah, I've been so positive about this team's depth because by MLS standards, it's phenomenal. And if Ian Frey's still healthy, and if Yannick Bright's still healthy, if Jordi Alba is healthy for 90 minutes, like this could change everything for this team. But like that's what the MLS really is. Even the most deepest team runs out of players when you have 3 injuries. You only really have 3 players you trust on the bench. If Baltasar Rodriguez wasn't hurt for the last 6 weeks and maybe he was in a little bit better form, maybe we could have gotten more out of him in that game. So the injuries didn't help, but that's where the depth comes in, and Palmeiras had it and Inter Miami just didn't. Natalia says, if only Bray and Fright are available for the next game. Nick says Frey's out at least a month. Frey's not going to be available for the next game. Muna says, after hearing this, I'm worried for Miami PSG. PSG makes the teams run and run. They get them tired. That would be terrible for Inter Miami. AJ says, my subs would have been Krem, Sailor, Martinez, Fafa, and Alba. For Redondo, Suárez, Allende, Segovia, last 10 minutes, probably Messi. Again, it's so easy in hindsight to criticize the decisions, and it's so hard in the moment, right? And the thing with cramps is you don't really feel them coming when it's a calf cramp or something. It just hits you all at once, and then all of a sudden you're basically useless. And so for a Federico Redondo, when the sub was made a minute earlier, he didn't know he was 30 seconds from cramping. And so it's hard. It's really hard. And I acknowledge that. And so I don't want to crucify the coaching decisions for what led to what was in all reality a 2-2 really impressive draw for Inter Miami. If we had started this game and said we're going to go get a 2-2 draw against Palmeiras, like, you absolutely take that. Natalia says Messi doesn't like draws. He doesn't like the feeling knowing he could have won it. I'm sure that's absolutely true. And I think that was the sentiment from a lot of the guys in the post-game press conferences after. Nolan says we really could have taken all 9 points. Yeah, it was there for the taking. Vice Rosa says the PSG Ultras and YouTube channels are rambling about revenge time against Messi for his performance during his time at PSG and what he experienced after the 2022 World Cup. SD says, bring it on PSG. We have the GOAT. I'll be honest, and I've said this many times. I was never a Messi fan before he came to Inter Miami. So what happened at PSG is like, I don't really know the specifics other than it felt like at the end of the World Cup, he was going to re-sign for them and then sort of slowly fell apart from there. And they didn't win what they wanted to win. So, but from like the little details perspective, I don't really know. Miami King says PSG fans didn't respect Messi. Did Mbappe and Neymar did their best in PSG. They still didn't win big tournaments. He didn't play well his first season, but his second season with PSG, he played well. This is a side note, and I'll get back to the game in a minute. We'll get to awards in a minute. But when Messi first signed, as I said, I've never been like a Messi guy. I wasn't a Barcelona guy, not an Argentina guy. Like, I obviously know who Messi is. I had watched him a couple times because I watched Barcelona and PSG in the Champions League and stuff. So I had seen him play 15, 20 games, But when he first decided to come to Inter Miami, I started watching some highlight tapes, and it was just like 42 minutes of the greatest passes I've ever seen. And it was only one season. It was like one season's highlights from PSG. And it was 42 minutes. And it was every single one of them would have been among the greatest passes in Inter Miami history. And it was 42 minutes long. I couldn't believe it. So, yeah, sorry. Side note. Uh, okay, let's get to awards because Saur did record some awards this morning. And so we have some from him. And because I'm a gentleman, I will let him go first.
All right, Scotty. I know you're a gentleman, so thank you so much for letting me go first and give out the Man of the Match award. And I'm going to give this award to none other than Luis Suarez. I know all of you are surprised, and I have been the biggest detractor of Suarez, but he was phenomenal in this game. He was needed in moments, and he absolutely conjured up the magical moments to get into Miami. Two very crucial goals. The first one, that beautiful chest straight into Allende. Honestly, that requires skill, that requires IQ, but that's experience. He knew exactly what Allende was trying to do, and he knew how to get that ball into him. Beautiful assist. And that second goal made it all by himself. Twisted, turned, went the right way for himself and the wrong way for the defender, completely juked him. And then what a finish to get that beautiful goal straight top corner. Keeper had no opportunity. We've constantly spoken about what Luis Suarez brings to this team. He may not be perfect over the course of 85 minutes. And boy, I've been frustrated this season with how his performances have been, and sometimes he just disappears. But yesterday, with Messi potentially injured, not 100%, we needed somebody to step up in that front line. And Luis Suarez stepped up, and how? You could see that we needed a leader on the pitch. And as soon as Luis Suarez was taken off, Inter Miami ended up conceding 2 goals. We needed that person up top to maintain and stretch the pitch out just to be able to hold the ball. And he was doing all of that really well, passing really well with Segovia, with Redondo. I think he had one of his best games this season. And I hope Luis Suarez continues to do this first against PSG and then brings that form back into the MLS. Luis Suarez, man of the match for me.
Miami King says this is the first time he gets the award this year, and I just looked it up, and it is the first time Luis Suarez has earned the Heron of the Match from the Dry Pink Dialogue. So credit to him, and he was unbelievable. I started this podcast talking about that 65th minute goal and the song, Vivir Mi Vida coming on in the loudspeakers after, and sort of the emotional nature that I felt watching that as an Inter Miami fan in that moment. And that's because Luis Suarez did something that very few human beings on the planet can do. And this was the game where he was supposed to struggle. This was a tournament he was supposed to struggle because he doesn't have the athleticism and he can't always get to the spot. But class is permanent, and he had it in that moment. It's just an unbelievable game from Luis Suarez. He could have had 2 assists. Tadeo Allende, both of his real clear-cut opportunities came because of Luis Suarez. But then the goal is something special. Inter Miami fans are obviously spoiled because of what Messi brings to the table. And Messi, every other game he has a moment where it's just like unbelievable that he could do that, and no one else on the team could do that. But for Suarez in this moment to have that play in the World Cup against Palmeiras, and what probably looked like the winner to both him and the team in that moment, the class, the quality, it's the highlight of it's the highlight of Luis Suarez's Inter Miami career. And it's a shame Inter Miami didn't get the win, and that didn't turn out to be the winner because it was deserving of that. It was deserving of one of the great moments in Inter Miami history. He deserved this man of the match. He deserved that win. When he came off the field we got worse. And I know I've always been the more optimistic about him coming good of the two of us, of me and Sor, but it's because of moments like that are still in him. But I don't know if I ever thought he was going to be that special again for Inter Miami. That was something. That was something else, really. Um, for all the people that want to see him come off the field. And by the way, I was surprised he came off the field. He wouldn't have come off if he didn't ask to come off. Mascherano wasn't going to take him off. But for everyone that wants him to come off, the team got much worse when he came off. And so it's a huge credit to Luis Suarez. His hold-up game was really good against a very physical Palmeiras team. Like, he was a baller. And him in this whole tournament, he's gone full effort. I know he's not as fast, but he has been applying pressure and applying a press that has allowed the rest of the team to sort of complete the press. Um, and so his tournament, I think he's been really good. And this game, he was special. And I think there's a real chance this ends up being his absolute best game at Inter Miami. And what a moment. I know he's had games where he scored hat tricks and had 3 assists or whatever, but that individual moment and this opponent and this stage, I really think that is going to be his best moment in Inter Miami. I think it's probably going to be his best moment in Inter Miami. Natalia says, well-deserved man of the match. El Pistolero, Suárez is Miami King. Yeah, he was absolutely awesome in this game. Truly, truly special. So I can get these graphics up here. That means I have to give the Heron of the match. I'm sorry, Heron that flew north. And for those that haven't watched our show before, this is the award given to the player who is doing the wrong thing. And I think it had to go to a substitute because I think the starting 11 was so good. They were so good. But for me, oftentimes I give this award based on an individual moment from a player, and I think it's got to go to Fafa Picault. I know Stadi. I don't blame Ustari for not making the save at the end. He had some nice saves in the sort of last 15 minutes of the game. Maxi Falcone, I know he could have headed a little bit farther. I don't blame Baltasar Rodriguez for not playing well because, listen, he hasn't played in 6 months, right? He had that 18-minute cameo, and that's all he's played since December. Kramaski was, nothing special, but he was okay. And so Fafa Picault earned a couple penalties. He wasn't terrible in this game, but he had a chance to put the game away when it counted in that 85th minute, and he couldn't get a shot off. And so I'm sure he had trouble sleeping last night because of it. But for me, it's Fafa Picault because he didn't have it in the moment, right? Okay, first award, and I'm not sure which one's actually coming first, but Saur has got us here.
Okay, so the first award that I'm going to be giving away is the Ice Skater Award. And I think this is a fairly easy one for you to guess. It's Tadeo Allende. Did not have a particularly good game against Al Ahly. Was okay against Porto. I think poor, if we may say so. And then against Palmeiras, where we needed goals. And we constantly talked about having an outlet in Tadeo Allende so that we can play out of the pressure. He offered exactly that. There were 3 or 4 opportunities that he had where he completely rinsed his right back, where he completely got free, straight on goal, used his pace on skates. It felt like all other players on the pitch were wearing massive Chelsea boots, and then Tadeo Allende on his ice skates was just able to guide through. Had 2 opportunities one-on-one with the keeper, took one beautifully, had that wonderful goal buried into the corner, and then the other one he just missed. If he had finished that off, this would have been a completely different game. Once again, as soon as Tadeo Allende came off, just like Luis Suarez, Inter Miami struggled to find that outlet. Fafa Pico added some of it, but it was not as effective as Tadeo Allende. I thought he did exactly what he was supposed to do, and to bounce back in the way that he did from that previous game against Porto. Very impressed with his performance. And maybe, just maybe, against PSG, where I expect Inter Miami to play counter-attacking transition football, Allende may just be able to get some opportunity in front of goal and allow us to dream a little bit. Tadeo Allende, the ice skater, great performance.
Yeah, it was a shot across the bow in this game. He Listen, I have tried to defend Tadeo Allende a lot. I know his first touch is not great, and I thought he was really poor in that last game against Porto. But what he does from a verticality perspective, I think it adds so much to Inter Miami from a team perspective. But for him to get goals, I think that's the difference between Inter Miami being a good team and a great team. Is if he can give you a goal every other game, like you're really rocking and rolling. And so in this moment where he had the one-on-one, and especially in this tournament where we've seen so many players that aren't the guy for their team put that off target, they can't beat the keeper. It's sort of a meek shot attempt. They're just so focused on putting it on target that they don't hit it particularly hard. For him to have a wonderful finish against a very good goalkeeper in Weverton, who in another generation may have been Brazil's number one keeper for half a decade, was everything we could have wanted from Tadeo Allende. And considering the bounce back performance from the last couple games, um, it's just everything we could have asked for. He absolutely deserved an award. Probably would have been my next Heron of the match, because this game and this tournament's all about moments, and he provided it. That first moment for the first goal for Inter Miami was such a high, and it was such a statement of not only can we survive Palmeiras, but we can take the game to them. I thought it imbued the team with a level of confidence that well, we'll get back to Messi in a minute, but like Messi didn't have the moments that imbued the team with confidence. Today Allende did, and that is so clutch. And for a tournament like this, we saw Telasco Segovia be the player with the big moment and get the opening goal against Porto. Today Allende does it today. This is exactly why they brought him in, and I'm just incredibly grateful that we get to have him, and he was able to make that moment happen. Okay, my first award is the Lions Main Award. And by the way, I will just, you know, give me and Saur a little bit of a reprieve in terms of our creativity. We didn't have to um, worry about the other person guessing, because Saur had to do it beforehand. And so I knew Saur wasn't going to be here to guess mine. So I think maybe I took a little bit of a lax terms in terms of the creativity. But the Lions Main Award goes to Maxi Falcone, specifically for the, I just want to get it right, 56th minute. He goes one-on-one into the box, takes his defender to the sideline, and then as the defender's trying to make a cross, he puts the 1-foot tackle in and kicks it off of that Palmeiras attacker, and it goes out for a goal kick. It's unbelievable defense, but as he stands up, he lets out this roar, the passion, the enthusiasm, everything we do love about La Paluca. And I think I fell in love with him during the LAFC series. And then kind of fell out of love with him, and he had some poor performances, and he gets dropped for a while. But he's been so good in this tournament, and that roar, that enthusiasm, that excitement, it just matched the moment so perfectly. And I wanted to give him credit for that. He was so bad in that first half against Al Ahly, and he was incredible in the second half. I thought he was so good against Porto, and I thought for the first 80 minutes, he was incredible in this game. This defender, the guy we thought we were getting, or we were hoping we were getting in the first couple weeks of the season, it's the energy, it's the enthusiasm, it's the passion. But he's also just ultra physical and smart with the way he manipulates his body to win headers. He's not a tall player, and so he needs to be much more technical. He needs to be a much more technical defender and much more accurate with how he puts his leg out or how he gets his head in there. And he just does it so well. He makes it so difficult for the opposition to beat him. We've seen, the other sort of parts to his game where he can get on the back line to prevent danger. There was that moment for Facundo Torres in the 32nd minute where he's trying to pick out that far post and he ends up missing by 6 inches. But I'm not sure that Maxi Falcao wouldn't have made the stop if he does put it on target, because just like he always does, he saw the danger. He got in a position to at least be a factor in the play. He's just been so smart and so good at bodying off whoever he's going up against, being not just physical, but really smart in his physicality. Um, and it's just a shame this team couldn't close it out, because he was just so good for the first 80 minutes. He was exhausted. No, Allen was exhausted. There was cramping everywhere. The whole back line really left it out on the table for this game. But and ultimately, it's his header that leads to that equalizer. But like it's just one bad moment out of 50 great moments, and so I thought he deserved a lot of credit for that, because I thought he was really, really good. Uh, okay. Next award is coming from Saur.
So my second award is the Annie Are You Okay award. And this is for all you music lovers out there. Annie Are You Okay? Of course, from Michael Jackson's famous popular song, Smooth Criminal. And who is more of a smooth criminal on that pitch than Telasco Segovia? He has been my favorite player this entire tournament. Some people say that he doesn't have the physicality, he loses stamina very quickly, is not able to keep up. That's not his game, though. If you put him in the middle of the park, he is so effective in just constantly making those beautiful, sublime 1-2 passes with the players around him. He had a couple of really nice touches where, first time, he angled the ball straight into space for another Inter Miami player to run into. He completely alleviates any pressure that's being put by the opposition every time Palmeiras tried to press him. He used his strength to body them off a couple of times, but then he would just pass it off into some easy space where Noah Allen could run into it. Sergio Busquets could run into it. Federico Redondo could run into it. He absorbs all the pressure to him and then passes the ball off into an outlet. And that just creates so many opportunities for Inter Miami. He is like Michael Jackson, moonwalking across the middle of the park, finding really nice pockets of space where he constantly goes in and out, pops up in one area, passes it off, runs into another nice space. And that has been so effective for Inter Miami this entire tournament. We were missing Yannick Bright, and we were wondering how is Inter Miami going to stop those dangerous transitions. But when you have Segovia in the middle, you don't really need to stop transitions because you don't lose the ball as often. And I think he's been a really important factor for Inter Miami to keep the ball. What a revelation this tournament. And Scotty keeps mentioning this, but every time Segovia is in the middle, he's, if not better than the opposition midfielders who are all touted to be European prospects, but at least he goes toe to toe with all of them. Whether it's Richard Rios in this game, Rodrigo Mora in the last game, Fabio Vieira in the last game, and then against Al Ali midfielders as well. Telasco Segovia always shows up. And for me, I think he has been absolutely brilliant this tournament. Again, fantastic performance yesterday. Brought off a little too early, and I was disappointed with that decision because it hurt our ability to keep the ball in the middle, and we went deeper and deeper and deeper. But when Telasco Segovia is in the middle, Inter Miami can actually play ball.
This is the player we dreamed about when we signed him. It's a shame that the coaching staff felt he was like a left winger for a long time in this season, but he's been unbelievable since they played him deeper and started putting him in the midfield. I I don't I don't really know how to explain it other than you've taken a player, you've taken him from a place where he's not comfortable and you've put him in a place where he's incredibly comfortable and you've let him shine. He's been so good, not just this tournament, but the last maybe week and a half of MLS play, when they found his position. But now into this tournament, it's not just are you a good player? It's a matter of, can you stand up to this level of competition? And when he went up against Porto, you were going up against ultra technical players. And when you were going up against Palmeiras, you were talking about big physical midfielders that are very athletic and they swarm. And it was a different challenge against Al Ali. You had to be perfect on the ball because they were going to hit in the counters so quickly and effectively, and they could pass so effectively through that midfield. And so it's three different challenges, and he's handled them all exceptionally well. Um, I think in terms of stock rising in this tournament for Inter Miami, it's Telasco Segovia over anyone. I just, I'm so impressed. And again, this is the guy. This is exactly the guy we dreamed about when we signed him back in January. We did an instant reaction to him. He was my favorite signing of the off season because I thought, man, we might just get a smooth criminal in this midfield. Um, so interesting award name to go with. Annie, are you okay as the award name instead of Smooth Criminal or Michael Jackson or something? But I digress. Saur, good award. He was absolutely deserving of one. And for Inter Miami, it's huge because they needed a midfielder that could be ball secure, and not just ball secure, but dangerous going forward and a real threat in a bunch of different ways. And the goal against Porto was huge, but I thought his performance today or yesterday was also huge. Doesn't get the goal, comes out earlier than I would have liked, but in terms of his physicality, his effort, his energy, and then the quality on the ball, the ability to be good at getting out of danger, the ability to be a threat going forward, the ability to link up, to make runs out of the midfield and be sort of at least an option for the attack. Like, he's been exceptional, and he absolutely deserves an award. Okay, last award is the Show Me the Lights Award. It goes to Federico Redondo. This has been his biggest moment at Inter Miami. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. This tournament is for him in a way that I don't think MLS regular season play is. And last year I think I was the single most critical Inter Miami fan of this player for much of the season. And I don't think he's improved dramatically this season. I think clearly Yannick Bright's the better player. But when we showed him the lights, he stepped up. He comes back into the starting lineup. I thought that was the right decision because Inter Miami was going to face a very athletic, prowling midfielders in Palmeiras that are going to try and win the ball away, take the ball away. And so when you put on Redondo, he doesn't make the forward passes. He doesn't sort of create opportunities for the offense, but he also doesn't turn the ball over in terrible situations. Sometimes I get he has a bad pass forward and it can turn into a turnover, but when he's going his own way, back towards his own goalkeeper, he's pretty safe on the ball. And I thought he was exceptional in this game. And again, if he stays on for 90 minutes, which I think was probably the plan, I don't think they were planning on taking him off. Maybe they were for Kramaski, but either way, we got worse when he came off the field, and he was really, really good. So maybe he's just a player that does really well against South American competition. But I thought he's had a really, really solid tournament so far, especially after halftime of that Al Ali game. And I thought this was his best performance of this season for Inter Miami, at least when you compare it to the moment, compare it to the competition. I thought he was really, really good, and I thought we got worse when he came off. So definitely deserving of an award is Federico Redondo. Okay. Anyone else I wanted to mention or talk about? I thought Sergio Busquets also played a huge role in terms of just protecting the ball in the midfield. Again, I mentioned earlier, but when it came down to breaking the press for Palmeiras, he realized that if he went back and took the ball in the center part of that back line, Palmeiras was going to sit off, and that they realized they weren't going to be able to press him. And that was what killed the press from that sort of, by the end of the first half, they had really killed that Palmeiras press because Sergio Busquets understood exactly how to break it, exactly what Palmeiras' game plan was, and then he knew exactly how to counter it. Listen, all three defenders we haven't talked about, Chelo Wiegand, Toto Aviles, and Noah Allen, and throw in Ustari as well. I thought 80 minutes of perfect soccer defensively. The effort was incredible. The energy, the concentration, the being in the right spots, the winning balls and clearing balls in the box, all of the right decisions for the first 79 minutes of this game. And then you could see Noah Allen cramped. and he wasn't quite as quick, although he stayed on. So, credit for him for going an extra 15 minutes while cramping. Chelo Wigan had a big moment in the 46th minute where he makes a diving tackle on a Facundo Torres run and shot. Todavilas, I thought, handled himself exceptionally well. And Maxi Falcone, who we've already talked about, I thought was really good. So that back line altogether, like, it's a shame they didn't get the shutout, because I thought they deserved a shutout for 79 minutes. And 2 goals felt harsh for them. As far as the subs, Jordi Alba, I've never liked him playing anywhere but left back. And I didn't think you could bring him on for Noah Allen and break up the defensive chemistry. So it's a tough situation because he has to play because he's Jordi Alba. You put him in the midfield when you feel like you have the game put away. I didn't think he was particularly good in this game, but it's a tough situation because this is how Inter Miami's roster is built. Baltasar wasn't good, but I think it's perfectly understandable. I don't think Javier Mascherano had any intention of putting him in this game. I don't think he's ready for this stage yet, where he's at from a form perspective and a health perspective. So he should have never been in this game, and it's not a surprise he wasn't particularly standoutish as we get into it. Okay, and the last one I want to talk about is Lionel Messi. He's been world class in the first 2 games of this tournament, and I thought he was a passenger in this game. And it's not disrespect to Messi. I don't think he's 100% healthy, and I want to get into that in a second. But I want to start with this. Inter Miami just took Palmeiras to the wire and really probably should have won this game. And they did it without Lionel Messi being at his absolute best. Now, that doesn't mean he was terrible. He had some really nice passes, created a couple opportunities for himself. But the fact that Inter Miami could go out and outplay Palmeiras for 75 minutes, they outplayed them for the first 75 at least. And they did it without Messi being phenomenal, I think is a real testament to this team. And so give him 6 days off. We'll see what he can do moving forward. But the fact that this team could survive without him being exceptional, I thought it was really cool. And I wanted to make a mention of that. As far as his health, I thought he looked fine in the first half on the rewatch. And I was paying attention to it. I thought he looked fine in the first half. And in the second half, I didn't think he looked fine at all. There was a couple moments I wanted to point out. 49th minute, Messi has a moment where he gets open, and it's like that signature Messi sort of pattern of play where he's maybe a yard and a half outside the box. He takes the ball to his left, and he sets himself up for that curling shot into the back corner. And it's just a really weak shot. And he does all of the setup, and then the final shot is just really weak, and it's an easy save for Weverton. It was weird. I've never seen him have like a weak shot like that in that sort of situation, because he sets himself up so elegantly and exactly like he's done 1,000 times. But then a minute later, he has a really nice dribble out of pressure and then a long cross to Allende. So I don't know if it's a power thing. I think his running and his dribbling are fine. They looked fine throughout the game, but I do wonder if there's a little bit of that extra gear that he's afraid to go to, or he doesn't want to go to because it's painful, and he doesn't want to risk pulling something. But it's the power on the shots, and it's the sprinting in the second half that I thought were just a little bit less than what we normally see from Messi and what we've seen from him this tournament. And listen, he was world class in those first 2 games. I think the best player in the group by far over the course of 3 games. There's no doubt in my mind. But I think we need that extra gear moving forward. And I thought he was hesitant to go to it in this game. And listen, we didn't need it. By the time we really needed it, it was the 88th minute. So, there's 5 minutes left in the game. So, maybe he is ready to pull that trigger if the moment calls for it. But I said in the pregame show, if Messi scores, we're going to win. And lo and behold, it's a 2-2 draw without a Messi goal. So I think there's reason to be concerned about Messi. I don't think it's going to be something that he misses the PSG game for example. In fact, I'm sure it's not going to be something like that. But for Inter Miami, I think they need him at his absolute best in that game. And I didn't think he was at his absolute best in this one. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, I just want to check over and make sure I talk about everything before we get into this PSG game, because let's be honest, that's what it's all about. I want to start by saying this. This Club World Cup has been so fun as a viewer. I have found myself rooting for, obviously, Inter Miami first, but after that, the CONCACAF clubs. And then after that, I've been rooting against the European clubs. And then I've been rooting for underdogs over favorites. And there's been some unbelievably fun games. The Urawa game against Inter Milan, Monterrey getting a draw against Inter Milan. Mamelodi, I thought, unlucky to not get a result against Dortmund. Obviously, the Inter Miami game. Seattle, I thought, had a really good account of themselves. LAFC was good against Chelsea for a long time, even though they were clearly being, talent wise, they weren't up to it. And there have been a lot of games like that where the underdog is someone you can feel really good about their performance. And that, I thought, the first match day was filled with that. And the second match day, it was sort of you have to get results or it's over, because all of a sudden on the second match day, you can be eliminated, and it's no longer fun to be competitive against a giant if you're also getting eliminated at the same time. So the first match day I thought was awesome. The second match day, not as cool. This third match day, we'll see. I thought the first games yesterday were interesting, but it was not the same. Natalia asked, which has been more fun watching, Scotty, Club World Cup or Gold Cup? I have not watched 3 games in the Gold Cup. I watched the first 2 U.S. games, and I watched like the last 15 minutes of the Dominican Republic game against Mexico, because the Edson Azcona was tearing up Mexico. But I haven't been watching the Gold Cup at all because I've been so focused on this Club World Cup and I've had so much fun with it. Not the point. What I am getting to is that Inter Miami is one of the stories of the tournament, and they deserve to be. The biggest story is the South American clubs have been so impressive. They really have. The European clubs, I think, have been a little disappointing. And then there's been some upstarts that have been really exciting and fun to watch. But a lot of those upstarts are not going to make it through to the next round. As we sit here going into the second day of match day 3, Inter Miami is through. I think Monterrey has a really good chance. They're going to have to win their game, but they're playing Urawa, which is, I think, a game they're going to be the favorites in. So they have a real chance to make it into that next stage, and then they're going to need a little luck in that River Plate Inter Milan game, but not a ton of luck. Like, if they win that Urawa game, they should feel pretty good about going through. Mamelodi would need to pull an upset over Fluminense to take that spot, but it's possible. I've really enjoyed watching Mamelodi. And then Al Hilal has 2 draws, and then they play Pachuca. So if they get a win over Pachuca, they have a chance to bypass either Salzburg or Real Madrid, depending on who wins that game, which I would assume would be Real Madrid. So they have a chance to eliminate Salzburg if they can win against Pachuca. That's it from the non-European, non-South American teams to potentially go through. And so for Inter Miami to be one of those teams, it's already an incredible accomplishment. That said, you're now in the final 16. The first group stage was about proving you belong, showing up for sort of representing your continent, representing your nation, representing your club in a positive way. And I think a lot of clubs did that are going to be going home. Now that you're in the group, the round of 16, now that you're in the knockout stages, it's about crowning a world champion. And Inter Miami has put themselves in a position to go for it. And I know that sounds ridiculous. They would have to win 4 games against some of the best teams in the world. And Messi doesn't seem like he's 100%, as Thab says. The commentator said he thought he was carrying an adductor injury. But you get a chance here, and that's all you can ask for as a competitor. They are going to play PSG Sunday at, I believe, noon Eastern time, maybe 1 o'clock Eastern time. So it's going to be an early day game. It's going to be in Atlanta, which means it will be on the turf. I'm sorry, it won't be on the turf. It'll be on the sort of recently installed grass. It's not going to be a fully settled grass. It will be temperature controlled, so you're not going to get any sort of advantage. And they're going up against the best team in the world. I watched PSG play Botafogo in their loss. They lost 1-0. Inter Miami cannot do what Botafogo did against PSG. And that's basically put 10 guys in the box and defend for their life. And every once in a while, push the ball forward and have one guy try and take on the PSG defense. And they had a moment where they pulled it off. And I'm talking about Botafogo. They had their striker carry the ball into the final third, and he gets a shot off, and it bounces off the calf of the PSG defender, and it redirects. So Donnarumma can't even attempt to make a save because there's the redirection that gives them the goal. They go up 1-0, and they did not create anything for the rest of the game. It is absolutely the definition of a smash and grab. They win 1-0. And there's no way Inter Miami can replicate that. They do not have the size, the defensive discipline. And also, you're going to have to play this game with Messi and Suárez, who are not going to be guys that are defending in the box for 75 minutes of this game and doing it effectively. And they're also not guys that are going to hit on the counter against PSG's defenders. So I don't think that is a blueprint for Inter Miami to win this game. So I went back to their last loss before that, and they lost in league to OGC Nice. They lost 3-1, and it was in the Parc des Princes. It was a home game for PSG. I will be honest, that game did not fill me with a lot of confidence either. The goalkeeper for Nice, Marcin Bulka, had 12 saves. He was the man of the match, and they just couldn't beat him on a consistent basis, but they controlled the flow of the game. But it did reveal the one weakness I think PSG has. I don't think they're a particularly good team at set piece defense, especially on corners, especially when you're putting balls into the box off of a set piece. Now, it's dangerous because they can counter you. They have great athletes and they can hit in transition. But in terms of actual defending, they don't have a ton of size defensively. They don't have a ton of size in the midfield. I think the way to score against PSG is for Toto Aviles to put the ball in the back of the net off a corner, for Maxi Falcone to put the ball in the back of the net off a corner, for Tadeo Allende or Federico Redondo to put the ball in the back of the net on a corner. If you can do that once or twice, you can score a goal or two. Maybe you can rely on Messi or Suárez to create in a way that gets you 3 other opportunities in this game, and you can get another one. But I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that PSG is going to dominate the state of play, create a significant number of chances for themselves, and ultimately, you're going to have to stop them from turning those into goals if you want to advance. Oscar Ustari is going to have to be great. Maxi Falcone is going to have to be great. Aviles. Maybe David Martinez is going to play in this game. Maybe you're going to have 4 center backs, and Jordi Alba and Cello are going to play to the right of and left of them, and you're going to have a back 6. Whatever it ends up being, you're going to have to be so good in your own box, and you're going to have to do it for 90 minutes. I think this game is going to play out in a way where PSG creates 25 opportunities and Miami creates 4. And you're going to have to win the game like that. I think that's how this is going to play out. I don't know if it's impossible. It's not impossible. I don't know if this is like the type of game Inter Miami wins 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 100. I would probably lean towards 1 out of 10. But this PSG team is the real deal. So that's nervy. What I will say, now let's get to some silver linings. Uh, if you were someone that wants Inter Miami to go win this Club World Cup and not just go as far as they can, this sets them up better in the quarterfinals, I think. Um, if they had played Botafogo in that next round, I actually think they probably win that game based on the matchup of styles. But for uh, the next round, they probably would have played Bayern Munich, and it would have been the same exact situation as what it is with PSG. Whereas if you play PSG in the first round and you somehow get the result you need, whether it's in penalties, whether it's a smash and grab, whatever it is, I think that next round game is probably a game you feel good about winning. So I think like the path to the semifinal doesn't really change. You're going to get the one behemoth and then one very winnable game. But obviously, it would have been nice to have Botafogo going in, and then you have a chance to get to the quarterfinals, and that's better than going to the round of 16, right? So I don't want to be absurd here. Devas setting is saying Dembele is coming back. I don't know if that's true or not, but he missed the group stage, so that would be a big for them. So I don't have a lot of positivity. Like I think if you watched Porto play, you could see a way for Inter Miami to sort of bully their midfield and wear them down throughout the game. I think if you saw Palmeiras play, you'd see on film like they don't actually create a ton of high quality chances, and they're also not great at converting. Like you could see a way where Inter Miami can hold them down. This PSG team so far does not look like a team with a lot of weaknesses. And beyond that, I don't think Inter Miami is particularly well set up to compete against PSG. Um, the typical way you would expect a team to go face them is to just low block 10 guys in the box, try and smash and grab one on a counter and get out of there with a 1-0 win, or 0-0. You go to penalties. By the way, we're getting into the knockout stages, so we're talking about extra time and penalties. And again, when we're talking about depth, it's really tough. Inter Miami is going to get weaker throughout this tournament. These guys are playing incredibly intense games, and there's not a lot of rotation. There's not a lot of substitutions. Getting David Ruiz and Yannick Bright back would be huge. I think that's probably on the table. Don't know if it's definitely going to happen, but I think it's on the table. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. What I will say is I don't think Inter Miami's set up to put 10 guys in the box. I don't think they can do that with Messi and Suárez. So you're talking about not opening up, but playing a little bit outside of your own box. And I think you open up for Kvaratskhelia and Desiree Doué, and if Dembele is back, like these guys are really, really good. And they have depth. The guys coming off their bench, we talked about $70 million players come, 4 $70 million players off the bench for Palmeiras combined to 70 million. PSG is going to bring 70 million pound players off the bench, each player, $70 million. So it's tough. It's doable. It's not going to be easy. And I think that's my final words. I think I'm going to watch the movie Miracles every day till Sunday to try and psych myself up. The only thing I really have so far to convince myself we can win is having to do with World War II. And I don't feel like that's really good justification. So it's going to be a tough one, guys. But anyways, I will leave it there. Cringe says, I'm getting a very doom and gloom feel. Nick Smith says, Botafogo game would have been at home again. Is that true? I think it might be in Philadelphia. Don't quote me on that. Tab says it's worse versus Bayern. They aim to stat pad. Rohan says 3. Miami Kings, we've already been successful for this tournament. Don't expect more. Just go play your best. Go Miami. I think that's absolutely it. Listen, PSG is tired. Here's the other thing I'll say. Inter Miami will sleep in their own beds, not the night before, but for the rest of this week. They'll probably fly to Atlanta Saturday and then play PSG Sunday morning. PSG will have been in the U.S. in hotels for 3.5 weeks at that point, almost a month. And then they all had international duty before that. So it'll have been a month for them since they slept in their own beds. Is that going to, hold them back? Like Inter Miami is the only team left that's going to get the advantage of being able to sleep in their own place. So I don't know. I'm grasping for straws here, honestly. Cringe says we need to replicate our style and intensity of play for the regular season and Leagues Cup. We'll get back to that. Guys, I'm going to end it here. This has already gone to an hour and a half. I've never done that alone on one of these episodes. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. You guys can tell me in the comment section how much you want Saur back. But we will be back later this week to do a midweek episode. We'll talk about this Palmeiras game a little bit. We'll talk about what the Club World Cup means for Inter Miami. We'll talk about a little bit about when Inter Miami goes from here, and maybe we'll have more positivity about that PSG game by the time we get there. But I hope you guys continue to enjoy the Club World Cup. I think it's an incredible thing that Inter Miami has put themselves in the knockout rounds of this tournament. It's an incredible success for Inter Miami. They had a chance to get all 9 points. That wasn't far off. They've been so good in this tournament. This is the World Cup, and they stepped up to the moment in a way that I think is absolutely worth applause. And so I think whatever happens from here, Inter Miami should be incredibly proud of the performance they've put out. Guys, we'll see you again later this week. I hope you enjoy this day. See you guys next time. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.